Hello, denizens of light and darkness, and damn, has it been a long time.
Why are you shouting?
'Cause we're starting the video.
Again? Already?
It's been a year!
It's not my prerogative. Well, let me go back to sleep. Just 5 more minutes.
Fine. Guess I'll just review OneShot by myself.
Excuse me? OneShot? I like OneShot. Where's OneShot? Give me the script.
So what's up, guys? How have you been? We've been out for a long time, doing many different things, all of them not related to making YouTube videos, and we kind of feel bad about that, so let's try and fix it, shall we?
We're not really gonna make any excuses. We just never got around to it. I blame Darklink.
Who am I kidding? I also blame myself. Thankfully, because of all the downtime, we've had a lot of time to play a lot of video games, and therefore have more things to talk about. And the first thing we're going to tackle is a neat little indie game called OneShot.
We're also gonna try to change the formula up a bit, make points flow a lot better, make the videos a bit shorter, because an average of 35 minutes is kind of a long time.
So without further ado, let's get started. Man, it feels good to fucking say that again. So, funny story, I kinda just came across OneShot during the Steam Winter Sale. You know, that one time of the year where everybody just sacrifices their wallets for a whole bunch of games, of which half of them never get touched because that's how Steam libraries work. I just kinda found it there and was captivated by the art style of the game and the trailers. It's not that often I just browse the Steam stores for that kind of shit either. I didn't play it immediately, however, because it described itself as, well, one of those games. And I kinda need to be in the mood for one of those games. So into the purgatory of Steam it stayed until a couple of months ago, where I played it. And then I had to lie down for a while, and then I told John to get it.
Which I did, and then I played it, and then I had to lie down for a while.
So yeah, take that as you will. The premise of the game itself is simple. It focuses on this little boy, cat named Nico, who has been transported from his home, I'm just gonna go with his now by the way, to this dark and weird, lonely house. Upon wandering around the house, he finds a light bulb, the size of a medium-sized dog, and uses it to escape the confines of the building. Unfortunately, this lands him smack dab in the middle of nowhere, which is even more confusing. So nothing else to do but wander around this barren wasteland to look for help, he stumbles across a robot called ProfitBot. He then sees Nico's light bulb and starts praising him as the messiah of the world, whose sole purpose is to bring the light bulb, which is apparently this world's sun, to the top of the tower. And remember when I said the premise of the game was simple?
ProfitBot explains that this world's sun went out one day, and ever since, the world started deteriorating at a rapid pace. But it was predicted that an outsider from another world, carrying a new sun, would eventually come and save the world by traversing to the top of the tower and replacing the old sun with a new. And that outsider is apparently Nico. So now it's your job to guide Nico throughout this world, solve various puzzles, and help him save the world, and then get back home. Oh, and there's also one small little detail that we may have left out. The world knows you exist, refers to you by name, and considers you their god. Yeah, like we said, it's one of those games.
The main gimmick of the game is that it is aware the player exists and is influencing the events that happen in it. As a result, it actually treats you, the player, as a completely separate character from Nico, and it opens the door for a lot of interesting dialogue. Which is a good thing because this game is a lot of talking. The game really puts an emphasis on talking to NPCs whenever you see them, as they might have key information that you need to progress through the story. And the characters that are important to the story usually have their own story to them. They have their own history, ties to other characters that you may not have expected, and their own motivations for, well, living. As you can imagine, this is a very depressing world to live in, but all the characters, while they are aware of their unfortunate circumstances, continue to have hope and keep moving on. And it's really interesting to see how they cope, if they cope at all. Some people are motivated because they know that the Messiah will eventually show up to save the day and bring back the light. However, some others aren't as optimistic, either doubting the Messiah will show up at all, or if he does, are uncertain it will even fix the problem. However, if they are skeptic, they keep going anyway for their own personal reasons. It's strange to be a part of a world that's aware that it's dying. It's almost creepy. Either way, the characters are definitely one of the best parts of the game, and you're gonna love talking to them whenever you come across one. They aren't the deepest characters in the world with complex personalities, but they feel like people, and after a while, you really start to care about them and the world that they live in. The interactions between Nico and all these people are definitely interesting to watch. It's almost ironic that someone with as much childlike innocence as Nico is considered to be the savior of an entire world. Anytime somebody sees this kid with the sun, their reaction is always different. There are some people who just freak out and don't know how to address him, and then there are people who just don't give a shit. But Nico's response is always the same. He never really considers himself to be a messiah, he just kind of gets told that he is, and as a result just kind of accepts his fate. All he really wants to do is just go home, and this is the closest bet he's got. But he's always optimistic about it, and he's usually the one asking questions and trying to solve people's problems. He eventually begins to care about the people in this world, and through him, so do you.
The most interesting character interactions in the game, however, actually come from Nico and, well, you. Everyone in the game is aware that you exist, but only Nico can actually talk to you. Besides the game itself when it gets meta. The people in the world and the game itself kind of pair you two off almost immediately, with Nico as the Messiah and you as a god guiding him. So because of this, you're always together and you talk to each other a lot, whether it be about what you're going to do next, where you need to go next, or stuff that's more personal. You actually get to learn a lot about this kid and really connect with him. And I mean, yeah, technically you're guiding him, however, when we played it, it never really came across to us that we were gods commanding Nico to go here and there, and I'm pretty sure it didn't come across that way to Nico either. You and Nico share the same goals. He wants to get back to his home, and you want to get him there. Nico also wants to help these people get their son back, and you're kind of the god of the world, so that's half up to you. It more felt like an equal partnership, or heck, even more like a friendship, as corny as that sounds. He doesn't know where the hell he's going, and unless you've played this game before, neither do you. So you're just kind of put in this situation where the two of you have to work together to make any progress. In gameplay, this essentially boils down to Nico doing the heavy lifting, and you doing the heavy thinking.
Now, of course, this game is a game, so you press a button and Nico moves, and you press another button and Nico picks up a thing, but it never really feels like that in-game, because the game does a really good job of immersing you into the world. Besides, Nico does have a voice and a mind of his own, so even though he's the cutest little naive button on the planet, he's still gonna call you out on your shit. He knows when things are not gonna work, whether or not something is a bad idea, and will straight up just refuse to do things that you tell him to do if they either make no sense or don't match up with any decent human being's moral compass. Like destroying an entire civilization of people by putting their son into a fucking vice. Holy shit, game.
Never said that you had to be a perfect god.
Chaotic neutral, I guess. It's probably a perfect time to get into the actual gameplay of OneShot. Something I didn't know initially going into it is that this game was originally an RPG Maker game. Which makes sense because RPG Maker games notoriously have a bunch of dialogue given the fact that, people are making RPGs. But at the same time, it was also surprising because I didn't actually pick up on the fact that it was an RPG Maker game because of how polished it was and how much of a not RPG this game actually is. This game is more of a point-and-click adventure game, but without the pointing and clicking and more of the moving around and talking to people. You don't really have anything special, just an inventory that seems limitless, the inexplicable power to fast travel to any place you've already been to, and the ability to combine any two objects in your inventory to make something new, given of course they can actually be combined. This game is about talking, interacting, and puzzle solving. Oh, and, walking. So there's a lot of walking. A lot of WASD. I may not make it sound too interesting, but a lot of the puzzles are actually pretty good, especially the ones that make you think, well, let's just say, outside the box.
The game, knowing you exist, isn't just a simple story gimmick. It's actually an important part of the design of the game. The game is aware that it is a game, and it makes it known to you rather quickly. And because of this, it does a lot of things that a game isn't known to typically do. There will come parts of the game where you and Nico cannot progress without certain information, or an object that Nico literally just cannot obtain. And once you hit these points, and you'll know when you hit these points, it's up to you to figure out or find what you need outside of the game. These parts of the game make for extremely good puzzles. Some are simple, some of them will leave you head scratching, and some just have you dig around your directory a bunch, but all of them are really clever. it kind of trips you up whenever you get to these parts of the game, as the game just kind of bleeds into real life.
It reminds me of Undertale in a way, as that game also tends to break the fourth wall a lot, but in a way that still leaves you immersed. The game satirizes a lot of tropes of RPGs by pointing out the terrible economic practices of shops actually buying worthless junk from the protagonist, or enemies typically not being able to fucking dodge for some reason, and the most important mechanic, saving. Saving, loading, and restarting that game is treated like a mystical fucking power. You can control whatever is essentially in the timeline of the world if you have the power to do these things, which Frisk does have. It's kind of the same thing with OneShot, except it's not really satirizing game mechanics, but more satirizing games as they are software on the computer. And whenever you see a monitor start glowing on a game, you gotta get ready, because in a couple of seconds, the game's gonna start doing shit like being sent diving through files and opening different programs just to try and find out what the hell to do next. The game can literally change stuff outside of the game. It's also kind of the reason why the first time you ever boot up this game, it tells you that you can play in full screen, but it encourages you to play in windowed mode because, believe it or not, it adds to the experience. It's not just the game affecting your computer, by the way, you also have an influence over the world itself. For example, if you close the game and open it later, you'll start where you left off, but Nico will be scared stiff, saying that you just kind of left and everything went black.
Fun fact, by the way, that's only in the Steam version of the game. The original RPG Maker version of the game is a lot more unforgiving towards you, considering I guess you didn't actually have to pay for it. In the original version of the game, if you for some reason close the game and try to open it up again, you'll be taken to a screen where the light bulb is broken, everything is dark, and Nico will be dead. Yeah. I guess this is why they called the game OneShot.
Yeah, I don't like that name anymore. So how do you close this game without killing or mentally traumatizing the child then? Since, you know, this is a game and we kind of have lives and other things to do besides playing the game. Well, the more progress you make in the game, the more tired Nico gets, and in every single area of the game, there is a bed that Nico can actually sleep in. These beds are how you stop playing the game without actually feeling like a terrible person afterward. It's also a mandatory part of the game. If you make a substantial amount of progress in the game without actually letting Nico take a nap, he will just straight up refuse to continue out of exhaustion. This only further goes to make Nico out as his own character with his own needs. There's an issue that I have with the way this mechanic is executed though. In true one-shot fashion, whenever Nico goes to bed and falls asleep, the entire game shuts down on you for added effect. And I mean, fair enough, like, what, did you want to watch Nico sleep or something? It is like 10, you creep. But no, the game shutting down isn't the issue. The issue is that if you're really engaged in the game once you get to these points, and you probably will be, then the first thing you're going to want to do when the game turns off is turn it back on, resulting in what is literally the shortest nap in the history of sleep cycles. It kinda just cheapens the moment, really, and it's especially annoying because it's not something you can typically avoid. These naps are scheduled. If he doesn't sleep before a certain point in the game will halt your progress until he does. I assume the reason behind this is because during these naps, Nico will have dreams that you will be able to see. These typically serve as character development for Nico and provide a sort of bonding moment between Nico and the player. They're kind of extremely important, so I would assume the game wouldn't want you to miss any of it by running through the entire game in one shot. No pun intended. But I feel like it's poorly executed in that way because if you just let him take the nap only to immediately start the game again, then what's the point? It would have just probably been better to just allow the player to just keep playing the game. It's even more annoying because after you take a nap once, you can't take a nap in that area again, so let's say you put Nico to sleep in the game because the game says so, then you get stuck on a puzzle or something. You're frustrated and you decide to put the game down for a bit so you can think it over and then come back later. Well, you can't, because now Nico says he's too rested to sleep. Stuff like this is infuriating, because now what are you supposed to do? Okay, well I guess I'll just turn off the game. Oh wait, that's right, childhood trauma. The only reason why this isn't a terrible design flaw is because they literally replaced the whole punishment of losing the game and starting from the beginning. But considering they replaced it with a guilt trip, it's technically still a form of punishment. It's actively trying to make you feel bad for having a life outside of OneShot. The whole deal of Nico can only sleep once per area and he has to sleep once per area is restricting the player, and it harms the flow of the game. A good alternative would have just been to make Nico sleep whenever the player decides to make him, but only have the dream appear for the first time in the area. But, oh well. Other than that, everything else in the game is pretty well paced. Besides, considering the situation he's in, I'd say Nico deserves a nap every once in a while. This place is, how should I put it? Dark. It feels dark, and not just because the entire place has been shunted in perpetual nighttime, but the world just looks and feels like an amplification of the game's tone. At the same time, it's not like Dark Souls dark. It's not like Twilight Princess dark either. It's like darkness shrouded in beauty. It's lying down on a grassy hill looking up at the stars dark, and I love that dark. That darkness brings out senses of mystery and tranquility, which is a strange juxtaposition for what is essentially a dying world. And it's extremely impressive to me that this game was able to bring out these feelings with the art style that it used. This presentation, man, it's definitely quality.
I mean, the sprite work isn't necessarily the best or even the most expressive I've ever seen, but it definitely looks good. In-game, everything's pretty static, animations are simple, just basic walking and stuff. But the details in the sprites themselves and the environment is what makes it especially impressive. It's like the inverse of Undertale, and I know we've been kind of comparing this game to Undertale a lot, but hey, what are you gonna do? In Undertale, sprites were well animated when they needed to be. It added even more charm and personality to the characters than that was already present due to the writing. But at the same time, the art didn't really look that pretty, now did it? OneShot's environment, holy. And that's without them pulling out the hand-drawn images used in the cutscenes of the game. To whoever's behind that art, you're a beautiful person.
And the same compliments go out to whoever is behind this soundtrack because, it's good shit. Every piece complements the situation or environment that it's used in. When you first encounter the outskirts of the Barrens, you have no idea where you are. The land looks dry, bleak, and full of broken machines. There's not a single living being for miles. I mean, there are robots, but most of them are also dead. And the song played here perfectly matches this environment. On the other hand, once you reach the Glen, the world's beauty starts to really shine. Everything's full of life, which is ironic because everything's still dying. And yet, the music sounds as beautiful as this place looks. And when you get to one of the final areas of the game, the main city, the refuge, you get to see a drastic change in atmosphere. It's the busiest the game has ever been, with the most people you've ever seen in one area, but at the same time, it's the area of the world that's the most corrupted as well. And these aren't the only songs that are good. Fuck the jingle that plays when you finish a puzzle, something I'd even put as my ringtone. There's only 3 unique areas in the game, but they're all memorable because of these songs and this art style. I can't forget these places. I can't forget this game. It's ingrained in my mind, and you know what? That's great. So in the end, what do we got?
In the end, what can I say? They created a beautiful game. The perfect blend of theme music, artwork, and a well-written story. There's nothing to complain about this one. It may frustrate those who don't have the patience for puzzle solving, but when you finally find out what to do, you're left a little bit flabbergasted from the unique puzzles that they have in here. It's rather amazing in my opinion.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. There's a lot of good things about this game. The characters, the dialogue, the world itself. The game just does a lot of things right. It's not very complex in the gameplay department, but it makes up for it by having one of the most unique ways of telling a story through what level of gameplay it has. OneShot easily gets the command. It's a wonderful experience that I honestly feel everyone should enjoy. It's a very short game, even shorter than Undertale, but I'd say it's worth it for the price of $10. And if by the end you're not feeling blown away, you're at least going to come out of the game with a new hatred for squares. You'll see what I mean when you get there. This has been Darkness the 2nd,
And I've been John.
and we'd like to thank you for joining us in the Realm of Darkness. Do the whole YouTube shiz, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. But until then, go out and have yourself a good fucking time with Nico. But remember, you only got one shot.
Darkness.